Well, you just doxed him. We're live. Thank you for joining us on Now That's Debatable. This is season 2, episode 7. This is your host, Fantastic Facade. I'm joined with our special guest, Morefreeuss. We also have, of course, my co host, Triboulet the Humanist. And I'm going to go ahead and get us over to our Relic Media page. So, Triboulet, you can talk about that for a second. That should go live now. I'm going to go ahead and get the meeting set up for our pictures in the background, and you can take it away. Awesome. Easy enough. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. Going to be talking, well, not different, but a little different. Uh, because I don't know if you saw the title for what I put, but it's different than the title that Triboulet put up for Facebook. And I just put the generic title, Do We Exist? Because today we're going to be talking a little bit about ontology and aesthetic philosophy. So if you're not familiar with it, it's going to be something that we haven't discussed on the show before, but it's something that's always interesting and fun topic to take on. So, uh, who wants to get started?
um, was, the only way that we can tell that we exist is that we think. And so his famous little saying that you hear in college all the time is, "I think, therefore I am," which I'm sure both of you are very familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Cogito ergo sum.
yep,
That's just
yep.
Latin. Yeah.
And that's kind of like baseline, what you might call. Well, Descartes was, I think he was, if I remember correctly, a continental philosopher, but I think that he would fall into the realm of phenomenology. in
Mhm.
terms of how we understand phenomenon in the world and how we perceive ourselves and the ego. Um, and so, I think after going through college and stuff, like my what I ended up
Hey,
kind of,
hold
yes,
on 1 second.
sorry.
Hey, we're all muted.
I think I fixed it. That's why I put it in the thing.
Okay, gotcha.
I was just waiting on a
Uh-oh.
response.
Okay,
Did we
go ahead.
miss all that last part?
I hope not.
Okay.
I think we missed like the beginning of the whole show.
Okay.
I'm trying to find
Well,
out.
so I'll just do a recap real quick. We were talking about
Uh,
existentialism,
well,
specifically.
hold on, just a second. Morefreeuss. The only reason I say like hold on, is just
Okay.
because if they can't hear us, all right, cool, they can't hear you. You can go ahead and recap now.
Okay. So I started with a common lesson that you'd find in your, like, course level 1 for philosophy, which had to do with Descartes' meditations, specifically his critique of the senses and the self, in which he concluded that we can be tricked by our senses and that reality is not as is not on as foundational grounds as we might like to think. And he concluded that the only way he could surmise that he existed is through his thoughts. Um, Now, that's a very high level general understanding of Descartes, and I'll probably won't go into any more detail on that specific subject. But I would say
I like the
Descartes,
comment.
yeah.
Well, just on that, like, so, like, what are your thoughts, like, on the Kagito? Like, did you agree with that?
Um, my main critique with Descartes was that he didn't deal with time,
Okay.
which was when you go into later philosophers like Deleuze and Bergson and Heidegger, you start realizing there's a couple of flaws with Descartes, specifically his substance monism, which is and that's why I didn't want to get too technical because I haven't studied this in a long time. But
Hmm.
his substance monism and his circular reasoning when it came to the self and the thought in
So
reflection of the
I
divine.
thought Descartes was a substance dualist. Like, cause
No, Spinoza was a substance dualist.
really,
Spinoza was the first one to break substance apart into two substances, basically. Substance dualism.
okay.
And I could be wrong on this. You can fact check me. I don't know because it's been a
Um,
while since I studied this. But yeah, I think Descartes, his understanding was much like the Platonic understanding. I think he was more aligned with the Platonic understanding of the divine and the forms, and he also he justified and rationalized his philosophical assertion through the divine. And so anyway, I don't remember exactly his argument in that specific category,
Gotcha.
but I know that Spinoza was the first one to actually break into substance dualism. Um, but you know what? You know what? Hold up. No,
All right.
you're right. You're right. You're right.
You was substance
Yeah,
dualist? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
yeah. So Descartes was a substance dualist. Spinoza was substance monism because he believed that the what he called the causa sui, or the cause of itself,
Hmm.
which is God in nature, was all one substance. I'm sorry, you're correct actually. So I'm wrong on that one. But anyway, I guess my point was at a high level general perspective when we're talking about existentialism and ontology. Um, the main contribution, I would say, besides all the technical facts or the technical pieces that um, Descartes brought up, was that we can't really trust our senses to a certain degree, and that's problematic in a lot of ways. I think Bergson and Heidegger and the other people that dealt with existentialism, and Sartre, another person, the other people who dealt with this subject dealt with it a little better, I think, because they brought in the element or the variable of time. So Descartes' main criticism lacked time. So my criticism in college, at least when I wrote papers on it, was yes, he was right that your dreams can deceive you and your senses can deceive you. But
Hmm.
if you account for the variable of time, you'll always be you always find yourself on the right path because you can't annotate in time the deception that happens by your senses. Eventually, the only consistent from a temporal perspective, the only consistent reality is the one that we experience on a day-to-day basis. And from that perspective, my opinion is, yes, we can be deceived, and maybe there's some higher level of deception that exists. I'm not completely convinced on that, but
You would still
my
have to exist.
my conclusion was like, okay, regardless if this is all the Matrix, right? Which is
Yeah,
kind of like what Descartes was kind of getting at was,
there'd have to be someone to deceive.
yeah, and on top of that, it's like, well, regardless, this is still the only existence we have to deal with, that we can
Mhm.
cause and effect and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Even if you could argue that that cause and effect is not real, it's the only real we have. So that was
Ye-
kind of my conclusion on that one. But
Gotcha. So I remember when I was sitting in class and I first heard like the Cogito, I thought it was a pretty airtight argument, maybe because it seemed to be, I mean, makes sense. It, it'd be pretty hard to deceive someone into existing, because in order to deceive them, they have to first exist, right? So to be wrong, you have to be. So I mean, it
right,
seems to follow. The problem that I had with it is that the entire argument was based on reason itself, which is something that you'd have to assume.
yeah,
So
that's a good point.
and so yeah, so I mean, so that's why I mean, I wouldn't say I rejected the argument. If you assume reason itself, then sure. But like even then, you have to make an assumptions. Like if you want to take skepticism all the way back, you could even start doubting reason itself, and
Right,
then
right.
maybe in some way it could be possible that you could be deceived and yet not exist.
Which I think that's where the post-structuralist, postmodernist folks are in current times, which is, um, you know, questioning and deconstructing the very concept of reality, and also as a synonym to that, truth. Because to a certain degree, when we say reality, we kind of mean truth. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm yeah,
that's what I mean. Like when
yeah,
I talk about truth, I'm saying like that which comports to reality.
right, right. And when we say reality, we tend to mean, based off of definitional terms at least, objective and empirical, which goes back to the rationalists versus the empiricists. You could even say the Greeks versus the, folks like Hume, for instance,
Hmm.
which is okay. The Early on in the history of philosophy, the Greeks thought that there was all the ideas that could ever exist were accessible through the Platonic whatever forms or something.
Hmm.
I could be wrong on the terminology, but either way, the point they were trying to make is that you didn't need the empirical. Well, it was later on down the road, and based off of their technology, you can't blame them for that perspective. But later on down the road, philosophers were like, actually, it's the empirical impressions on the physical and biological self that form the rational ideas and concepts and things like that. And then when you go fast forward, then it was a combination, it was a hybrid. It was okay, well, actually, it's the physical impressions of the world on the self, and then the ability to mix and match those in the irrational world of ideas. And that's where we get the most breadth to concepts and ideas, and how we operate in the world. When it comes to existence, if you wanted to link Descartes to this, Descartes was questioning his existence in terms of his senses, and at the same time relying on those senses for his own existence. And so, like, that's another kind of point of contention there, is that, like, okay, well, I'm going to question my senses, but these are the only things that help me get to this point and survive and live. And so, regardless if the world is like, I'll just give you another example. Like, a you could create what's it called? A simulated universe where I require you to go pick up 3 sticks a day, and if you don't do that, you die, right?
Mm-hmm.
So similarly, you could require that I drink so much water in a day or whatever, and I'll die. It still could be a simulated universe. It doesn't cancel out the possibility of that. But again, like outside of the simulation, if you want to say, and I don't know if you've heard Neil deGrasse Tyson's counter argument to the simulation. Neil deGrasse Tyson was actually on board with the simulation theory. I watched him in New
Yeah,
York City.
so yeah, I didn't. I mean, I didn't watch him in person, but I've heard his response to it because like he seems to say that the simulation seems to be the most probable,
Yes,
right?
but
Because there could be multiple simulations, but only one reality.
but
So
he
which one are you more
recounted
likely to be?
he recounted his statement. So I watched Brian Greene and Richard Dawkins at the 92nd Y in New York City when I lived there. I went to their discussion. There was just a discussion between the two,
Mhm.
and they talked about the simulation theory. Both of them agree that that's probably the most accurate account of the universe
You think
and
we're
our
simulation?
existence. Yes, both of them agreed that. And at the time, so did Neil deGrasse Tyson. But recently, I would say the past 5 years, Neil deGrasse Tyson actually, um, I guess, recounted that or argued against it. Because the argument follows very logically that we're in a simulation. But then the point that Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of recently brought up was like, well, we don't have a real simulation. That's where you get into tricky territory. But he said we don't have a real simulation currently in our own universe. So either we're the first
I mean, he
civilization.
said we don't have a real simulation in our own universe.
Correct.
Like,
I know that's a tricky thing that he said, but in the way that
because I mean, like, how does he know?
well,
Like,
so the original argument is okay, if you walk through the steps, it's like, okay, step 1, there's an original universe. Step
Mhm.
2, we become technologically advanced enough to simulate reality. Step 3, we simulate reality, therefore there's multiple simulated realities. Therefore, it's statistically
it's
plausible.
more probable that you'd be in a simulated one, not the real one.
Perfect. Correct. But he was
Mm.
saying, his is his recent counter argument.
Mhm.
Well, we don't really have that yet. So we can't say.
I'm saying how would he know that? Like,
Well, he's
like
based off of
what if our
technology.
simulation? No. So he's based. You could say that he's basing that assumption on the technology that's available in the simulation that he's in. Like what I'm saying, like, what if the reality that we're in right now is a simulation, and it's just happened to be less advanced than the actual one?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I'm surprised no one's like challenged him on that.
I'd also like to say that there's actually a fundamental flaw statistically in the simulation argument in general, and that is that people tend to overlook in the fact that you actually make a misstep in logic and in statistics when you say that it's statistically more probable that you live in a simulated reality, because that's not actually true. That's only true if you assume that a simulated reality could exist, which is equally true that it could not exist.
Well,
So, in
I mean,
order to have a universe that gets to the point of simulating technology, you must also have a universe that doesn't do that, so you're still statistically even.
what I mean, why couldn't a simulated reality exist?
I'm not saying it couldn't. I'm
Okay.
saying it's statistically as likely that a universe exists that never develops the technology to simulate reality.
So I think the original argument that I remember hearing with Dawkins and Brian Greene. By the way, you guys know who Dawkins is, right?
Yep. And I know who Brian Greene is. So.
Okay. All right. Cool. So just because you may not know the credentials, but I think the original argument was like, look at the way technology is progressing. Okay, simulations have started. They started back in probably the 70s.
I was about to say, just like as soon as computers started coming around, the
right,
simulations were coming around,
and they've grown increasingly more and more complex to the point where, you know, at some point, if you believe in the singularity in artificial intelligence, it may be the
Okay,
case
can you
if we
can you
follow.
kind of like pause there because those two things didn't really, uh, at least in my head, didn't really flow into. I think either where you were going or I don't see the leap in where you're coming from in
Yeah,
a
that's fine.
need to believe in the singularity and or
Well, the singularity from my
AI.
foxhole, AI is a precursor to the singularity, but um, in the
AI
way
is
I
precursor to
understand
the
it.
singularity and the singularity in which the universe as we understand it,
No, the singularity in the sense that it's used in science fiction, which is the point at which um,
the event horizon
computers
would
or
take place.
technology becomes conscious.
Okay, so we're not referring to it in the scientific sense, we're referring to it in the science fiction sense.
Well, if you read people like Ray Kurzweil and other like there, for instance, there's a whole company out of China, for instance, and there is a field of information technology, artificial intelligence that is specifically focused on what they call the singularity, which is the point at which technology becomes as intelligent and conscious, similar to human beings. That's what I mean by that.
Okay, so when in this specific context, when you're saying singularity, you're not talking about the point like of a black hole
Not
or
like the
an event
Big Bang.
horizon.
No,
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 that's not what
no,
he's
no,
talking
no.
about. No, no, no.
You're specifically
That's
talking
a
about
mathematical singularity. No,
Yeah,
no,
that's those
you're
are
very
like
different terminology.
there's a
okay.
but there's a I will say there's a lot of respected scientists and dataticians and AI people and IT people that I've listened to over the years, and they speak about the singularity commonly. And AI is a precursor to the singularity, meaning that what's up?
I was going to ask, have you played like Conway's Game of Life?
No, I have not.
Okay, so it's a pretty cool game. It's on, you can play it online. If you just go to playgameoflife.com. It's a program, and it has really simple rules, and you can just like it's just it chooses like a bit when the bit's going to be up or down, and right, and then as it keeps going, it gets more complex, right, and then it can just spontaneously generate things like a tree, like a car, like whatever. And then after a certain amount of time, just by sheer like statistical probability, it can actually generate another um a machine maker, like another machine maker that has his own game of life with his own set of rules. And that can generate another one and another one and another one and another one. And so I mean the point that I was trying to make is kind of is very similar to what you were saying about Neil deGrasse Tyson's original argument when he was saying that like which game were you more likely to be in, was the
Right.
yeah the original one
It,
or
the
what?
I think the original argument is pretty logically sound. I think that his
Yeah,
counter argument is not as compelling to me, at least,
yes,
because
same here. Okay, to
because
me,
what's up?
I'm sorry, I was saying
No, you're good.
it's an unwarranted assumption that there's not a simulated
Yeah, I think that you're the first
simulation in the
person to
universe.
bring up. You're the first person, at least I thought about it, but I didn't really question it. But you're the first person to bring up, like, of course, there'd be a simulation that doesn't have a simulation that you believe is enough to warrant, right? I mean, it's like, but to your point, there's other games like what's that game? Oh, man, I wish I could remember this technology. I have a bad memory, but there's this game where you can basically explore the universe indefinitely. And the way the algorithm works is it has all these different variables and they interact and they spontaneously create new worlds. Because I'm really big into
No Man's
gaming
Sky.
and yeah, what were we saying?
No Man's Sky.
Yep, that's the one. That's the
Oh,
one.
you play No Man's Sky?
I don't
Oh
play it, but
man,
I
okay.
researched the technology
Oh,
about it because I was
I
really
love that
interested in it.
game. I love that game.
But it's called
Yes,
like
there.
procedurally generated. I don't remember. But
Yeah,
Yeah,
procedurally generated
P-
planets. You believe it or not, if you're
PCGI.
listening, that game has 18 quintillion planets.
exactly, so
18 quintillion planets. That is
that's
And
crazy.
it's technically the second largest game to exist.
Yeah, and that's
behind
kind of
Minecraft.
that just
No.
makes
Everything's bigger than Minecraft.
No, it's not.
No, dude, check it out. The Minecraft, the entire universe of Minecraft is about the size of planet Uranus.
No, we're not talking about like scale. We're talking about size. Like there are more possibilities in Minecraft than there will ever be in No Man's Sky.
I'm not tracking. I'm not tracking what you mean by that.
Oh, okay, so the total number of permutations and outcomes for Minecraft and the ways that you can configure things within it. Exist at a grander scale than that of No Man's Sky.
Okay, so I mean, does it sound like Minecraft would be more complex than No Man's Sky?
Yeah, it was just a fun random fact. That's all.
But either way, the logic that seems to support the logic, right? That Brian Greene and Richard Dawkins were talking was like, look at our trajectory of simulations, right? It's only a matter of time before. Have you guys seen like the surrogates with who's the guy who played all the freaking action movies with a bald head?
Bruce Willis.
You've seen the surrogates. It's only a matter of time before it's plugged into the simulation. I mean, it's literally if you look at Facebook, they've invested billions of dollars.
You're taking leaps of logic there that actually don't exist. So, like to me, the problem still goes back to, like, you're equally as likely to be in a universe that never develops the technology to, like, simulate reality.
It's possible, but
if your possibility is either you're in a universe that has simulated reality or will simulate reality, or you're in a universe that does not simulate reality and has never simulated reality and never will, you still have equal possibilities.
But there's more evidence towards simulation in this universe.
Facade. So what do you mean by being? What do you mean by in a universe where it's impossible to simulate? Why did I just forget the word? Simulation. Yeah, it's to simulate reality. What do you mean by impossible to simulate reality? Like, are you talking about what I'm saying? A law of contradiction, or are you saying they couldn't develop the technology?
No, what I'm saying is that the statistical probability of you existing in a universe that will happen is the same as you existing in a universe in which that will not happen.
So here's the counter argument.
So
if I was sitting here with Richard Dawkins
as well, but go ahead.
You can do yours first.
Well, okay, so like what I was gonna say, because I thought you were gonna try to say that it points as like it breaks some sort of law of logic.
Nope. Like, I'm just saying statistically, you have the exact same odds.
Well, like I don't see how it would. I don't see a universe how would it even be possible for it to be impossible to create a simulation. Like we're not even saying it's necessarily based on like technology. Like it could be just like some sort of a mind that's spontaneously generated through like some quantum fluctuation. It's not even based on technology.
But that assumes that there's a mind based off of quantum fluctuation that exists in a universe that can simulate your reality, which is also equally possible. It's equally as possible as just someone developing the technology to do it in the universe that we exist in. It's also as equally probable that you exist in a world that mind, which is using quantum fluctuation, does not exist.
Yeah, but either way,
you have exactly the same odds. It's an infinite-sided dice.
In either way, so like in this universe, is there a field there? Like a quantum field?
I mean, again,
equally...
Like, so unless you say,
but it's not like, equally. It has.
It is. It's an infinite-sided dice.
Brian Greene would both. If Brian Greene was on this call, I know what he would say. So you can do.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say, for me, I just don't. I can't see. I cannot fathom a universe where it will be impossible for a simulation to exist.
Okay. What if I told you that there's an inconceivably intelligent deity that made you, specifically in the universe that you exist in currently, and he set your mind to believe that? And he's so powerful, he controls all of universes, and therefore, He knows that there is no such thing as simulated reality in any other universe, but he, for whatever reason, decided to convince you that that is reality.
That's no. That's the difference. So you're saying, so this being knows that no simulation exists. But we're talking about whether it's possible for a simulation to exist. So like if we accept the possibility,
he's saying it's not possible.
By statistical probability, we would be in that universe. We would be in the simulation.
Why?
All you would need is possibility.
I know what Brian Greene would say to both.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead and say what Brian Greene would say.
All right, go ahead.
Brian Greene would 100% say, let's look at the evidence and the data we have. That's all we have. We can't speculate on anything else. We are creating simulations. They're getting more and more advanced. Therefore, if you project that into the future, a future civilization will be able to simulate existence. And therefore, it's more probable.
That's a slippery slope fallacy in general.
I don't think Brian Greene, who's one of the top physicists among academics. I'm aware who
Brian Greene is. I'm not trying to point
but I'm just saying, like, you have to at least respect the man's credentials. The dude is one of the top.
I'm not trying to disrespect his credentials. I'm pointing out something that's like a clear.
But you're trying to say Brian Greene is statistically
I'm pointing out
flawed.
a clear flaw. Yes, I'm pointing out a very obvious flaw.
No way.
Yes.
Not for that dude.
Oh, hold on.
No. Let's use pure logic.
Brian Greene ain't God.
You can't. He's not God. He's not God.
But let's see the flaw.
Let's use pure logic. You ready?
Brian Greene is not God.
Let's do this really easy.
He also is a mathematician.
Let's make it really easy for you.
Yeah. Let's hit her flaw first. Let's hit her flaw.
Let's make it really easy for you, okay? I have a coin, okay? On one side, there's a face. On the other side, there's a butt, okay? I hold the coin up to the camera. Which side is it?
You mean, like, can we see? Like, I mean,
if I hold it up, is it going to be a face or a butt?
You're holding a coin, and is it a face or a butt?
Yeah. Which one is it?
I mean, I don't know. It depends.
What's the possibility?
It depends on the side.
What's the possibility that it's a face?
So the assuming that it's a fair coin.
Yeah, it's a fair coin.
Okay, it's roughly 50-50.
Okay, right. So what you're saying is that in reality, or in the universe, there is a 50% chance that reality is simulated.
No.
And there is a 50% chance that it is not.
Nope, that's not what we're saying.
So there's only evidence.
If you grant the possibility of a simulation,
let me address something that Morefreeuss said real quick.
Just by sheer
can I address
probability.
what Morefreeuss said real quick?
Go ahead.
Because what you just said was a fundamental flaw. So what you just said was like, no, the evidence only points to this. No, what the evidence points to is that the reality that you perceive indicates that we are currently simulating things. That is it. You don't get to say that in the future, because humans exist now and statistically they've gotten taller over time, that in the future humans are going to be 10,000 feet tall.
No, I mean, I think it's a basic inference. I mean, just think about like the metaverse. What Mark Zuckerberg is doing.
That's a good point. See, that's a good point.
The problem you're doing by saying that it's just a basic inference is just like the misquote when we talked about technology doubling every year. That statistically hasn't happened. Semiconductors can only get feasibly
I didn't say
small.
doubling.
I'm not saying you did. Yeah, I'm just giving you the example in which people often misquote. So, for instance, the amount of semiconductor space can only get like finitely small, like to the point of like a certain smallness before we no longer have an increase.
You talk about transistors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Essentially,
you talk about Moore's law.
Officially, can't double forever.
That's I would say two things. I'm not saying you're wrong because I don't know. Who knows, right? But I would say like, technology's potential is different than biological potential, and biologists know this. I mean, I've watched enough like just basic like Discovery Channel documentaries, not to say that I'm right about it, but there's an issue with proportions when it comes to humans and mammals that limits us. And
I
so
agree.
there's not.
I agree 100%. I'm just giving you the
Yeah.
point that I was making. I'm not saying that in the future humans are going to be 10,000 feet tall, or
No,
that
yeah,
you're
yeah. I mean,
arguing
that's
that.
not
I'm just
possible.
making the
But
point that statistically, if you look at history and you look at where
I,
technology, science, math,
I,
etc., and the
if
fact
you
that we
look,
have increased that, doesn't
yeah,
So
but
lead you to the point of something
if
like
you,
humans
l-
being 10,000 feet tall.
let me put this
so
in front of you.
how
If you look
how
at the
about this?
top, if you look at the
Okay.
top scientists, data statisticians, IT people, they're going to tell you, okay. And I've looked at this myself with Neuralink, for instance. At some point, we're going to be able to simulate the synapses and the impressions that reality gives us. And
So
that's going to
A,
happen.
that's an assumption, and then
It's not an
B, that doesn't
assumption.
simulate
It's not an
reality
assumption.
if you
That
must
is
then
a
plug. No, no,
that
no.
is a reality.
A, it is assumption because I could
It's
say
not.
like,
Okay, but
how is
it's
it
a
not an assumption? You
well.
don't have a guaranteed
No, no,
Because
proof
no,
of
no,
it
no, no.
no, let
existing.
me
Hold on,
explain why
you
it's
got,
not an
got, hold on,
assumption.
hold on. No,
That's just a
no. First of all,
bald
no,
assertion.
it is no.
It's not.
It is an
No.
assumption, but it's a very warranted assumption.
No,
Like
I
it's
mean,
just an
based on what we see
assertion.
right now,
literally, if
it's
like if
very warranted.
I'm telling you right now, the science itself supports the fact that here's the thing.
I didn't
I'll tell you
realize
why.
either of you could see the future. My bad.
Have you seen the 3 hour demonstration by Neuralink? And I'm not trying to push you in a corner. I'm not really. I'm not. I don't care about that. I'm not
The
trying to
long
score
and the short
points.
is yes, and I'm aware where you're going, and I agree that it's impressive
It's
technology,
just
but you're pretending
science.
like you could.
No, it's science. It's little. I can explain it to you.
Dude,
I
that's a
will literally
blanket
break it down.
statement. What does that have to do with reality or you being able to see the future?
I will
I
break it
wasn't
down.
aware you were
Want me
able
to
to
break
do
it down?
that.
I don't.
Yeah, I'll break it down. I can do it. I literally
Oh,
can
you
because
can
I've
see the
seen it.
future. You can guarantee
No,
me something
I
is
can
going to
tell you.
happen.
I can tell you how
You
simulated
can
reality
guarantee me
works.
something's going to happen?
No.
I can
It's
tell you how
basic.
simulated
It's
reality works. Do you want
basically
to know that?
no.
If you can tell me how
Like
reality works, then you
no.
must live in it.
No. Okay, look.
Yes.
I mean,
No, I'm
so
saying
no. He's
Like
making an
you're starting out with
inference.
a fundamental flaw here.
It's an inference
I'm
based off on
I'm
the
just
current.
studying.
Hold on,
Yeah.
it's the inference based on a current projection of technology. Like, sure, if you really think about it, like atomic decay could start tomorrow and all of existence just get wiped out or something like that. And then yeah, obviously it isn't going to go. I mean, the simulation won't exist then. But like given the current trends, that's definitely the way we're headed. Like
Give me
people
3 minutes.
already.
Can I have 3 minutes and I'll explain everything?
You can have as much time as you
Okay.
want, but if you make a stupid assertion, I'm going to call you out on it.
And that's okay with that. That's the whole reason why we exist, right? I'm cool with that. But look, here's how it works. I watched a 3 hour demonstration of the Neuralink company owned by Elon Musk. And this is what they do. They bore a tiny hole in your head. Sometimes there's multiple holes. And they put tiny little antennas inside your neurons. These are really, really tiny. I mean, they're like I don't think you could see them with your human eye.
Yeah, they're
Those
micros across. They're less than the width.
microscopic.
Yeah,
Correct. Yep. Those
I watched
little
the same demonstration, so I guess for the people watching, but
well, yeah, for the people watching. And this is why I'm like kind of like at odds with these, because like they can sit there and they can read the neural synapses. They can understand when you think something, and they can process information without you needing to do anything. You don't have to touch your thumbs on a freaking keyboard. You don't have to do any of that. And so also those neurons can feed into your brain signals that tell you what someone else thinks. They can tell you how you feel. And those are the things that we're talking about in terms of simulations. And so when you look at Brian Greene and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Richard Dawkins, these people aren't just stupid and they made a logical flaw. They're looking at the technology, and it's going to come, and there's going to be a point where you can live and you're going to feel as if there's a breeze. Excuse me. There's a breeze that's touching your face, and there's a sound of an ocean wave, and all of those things. It's going to happen because of what Descartes said, freaking whatever, 300 years ago. Your senses are just a matter of synapses telling your brain what you believe or perceive. And so I think, I think that Brian Greene and Dawkins, and I think that Neil deGrasse Tyson will come to his senses, and Elon Musk will tell you that's legit. Like having
Yeah, I love how you sum that up with saying that's legit. Can I point
yeah,
out like a really
because it's
few
also
minor
connected.
things?
Sure.
Like you're aware that like in order for you to say that any of this is a simulation, that a reality outside of the simulation must exist.
Yeah.
At least
You
in
need
the
neurons.
painting and or picture that you just gave. How do you know
Sure.
you're in that?
So can I try to steal man? Well,
Be
no,
my
no,
guest. You can
no. Ask the
do whatever you
question.
want. I don't
Well,
think it's
so
gonna matter.
okay, so I mean, I don't want to just regurgitate Neil deGrasse Tyson's argument, but I mean, like you understand the point when he was saying like if a simulation is possible, then multiple simulations are possible.
I don't
And
disagree. I don't disagree with
so
that.
cool. So if there's multiple simulations, and there can only be one reality, just by sheer probability, you would be in one of the simulations. How about this? So in our current reality,
Hold up though.
yeah.
Let me just for funsies here. Go with me on a very short trip.
Okay, but I was about to go to a really important point though.
Go ahead.
Okay, so in this universe, is a simulation possible?
I mean, I'm not gonna say it's impossible. So sure, it's possible.
Well, of course it is. So of course it is. Because when I'm talking about possibility, like I'm saying, like it doesn't violate any sort of law of contradiction. Like, because you had talked about like a god earlier, just telling me stuff. Like I don't think a god is impossible. So
Okay,
so
I mean, by that reason, like, what can I before you get too far
so
down that rabbit hole, like, do you think that there is a multiverse? Is there an infinite
well,
number of universes?
for very different reasons.
You
But
said what? You broke up a bit. Sorry, I missed that.
okay, my bad.
Yes.
Yeah, so
In my thoughts, there are.
I believe there's a multiverse
Do you
for
believe
very
there's an
different.
infinite number of universes?
I don't know if it's infinite, but so like I mean like for me the best model we have of the cosmos is quantum loop gravity. We have zero evidence of it, but to me it's just what makes the most sense. And so with quantum loop gravity, you're not going to have an infinite number. It's going to be a fixed number, but it's growing.
Yeah, and top
So
scientists actually
So it
support
can
the
be
idea of
fixed and growing.
multiverse.
no, like so like for instance, like let's say there's 21 universes. Right now there's 21, and then it grows to 22.
Right.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It does that, and also the universes could clash in on itself, and then
top,
with this. So
but
the number is a certain number, but it's just
right.
just changing. That's not.
But also, like top experts, and I'm not saying to like appeal to authority, right? That's like we all know that can be false.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying what I'm saying is true. I'm just saying that people who study this more than me and you and us and stuff, the multiverse is very, very popular and accepted. That's not the best, right? Like defense of the theory, but I'm just saying,
There's like zero empirical evidence of the multiverse.
Well, yeah,
I'm
wouldn't
the first
say
to admit that.
My problem
I wouldn't say
being
zero.
going back to the original point.
You said I didn't. Go ahead.
My problem is that we essentially just have to go back to the initial point. That being, let's say hypothetically there are currently two universes, which is almost an ironic thing because uni means one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's say there's two. And in one universe, there is no life. There is nothing that is remotely similar to what we have in ours.
Yep.
We live in universe 2. Universe 1 looks nothing like it. So there's nothing to be simulated because there's nothing there. What are your chances that you live in universe 1 versus universe 2?
This is what I was trying to clear up earlier, because I think there's just a misunderstanding of simulation, right? Because like a simulation wouldn't necessarily require life. Like, so we're not talking about
simulated in universe 1. What would you simulate?
So you could just simulate.
How would you define a simulation in our universe?
You could just simulate what's happening in universe 2. So when we talking about like the the initial universe, right? That's one that comes about through physics. Well,
Are we talking about
the second one's the
are we
simulation. The
talking about a
simulation comes
universe
through
that we
physics.
live
Yeah,
in, or a
yeah.
potential
I would-
hypothetical multiverse?
How about this? So the I don't want to get this can get really confusing.
I could tell you what Brian Greene would say, because Brian Greene would say you have no evidence of that universe. You only have evidence of the universe you're in, which contains simulations. So
That's true.
you are making the proposition.
That's true.
No,
here's
you're
what you're
making
about
the
to do, though.
proposition.
In the
No.
universe you live in, you don't have good evidence that you live in a simulation. So you can't make one assumption without making the other.
No.
This is what Brian Greene would say. We have tons of simulations, bro. We have simulations.
No. I didn't say that.
What's wrong?
Don't dare put those words in my mouth, because either actually attack my argument or don't talk on it.
Maybe I didn't understand it.
Okay, so what I said was there's no good evidence that we live in a simulation.
No, that's not their point. That's not Brian's point.
So
that's
don't
not Richard
attack
Dawkins'
me
point.
and don't attack my argument like I just said simulations don't exist. Those are two different things. I didn't say it wasn't possible. I didn't say that simulations don't exist. I didn't say we're not in one. I said there's no good evidence to show that we are in a simulation. Just like there's no good evidence that another universe outside of our own exists.
Yeah, but
however, if you want to give the possibility of a multiverse meaning more than one universe, a universe in which a simulation does exist, and a universe in which a simulation does not exist, are equally probable when it's an unobservable hypothesis.
So Dawkins, Brian Greene, and Neil deGrasse Tyson would not tell you that we live in a simulation.
I mean, like, I respect. Pause. If you let me just do something real quick, because it's annoying me slightly, and it's a personal thing. I agree that those three are really intelligent. I don't care for this argument. I want to know your argument against what I just said. I don't want to know what you think Brian Greene's saying. I don't care what Neil deGrasse Tyson said and recanted on. I want to know your specific argument against mine. Because if you're unwilling or incapable of making one, then we're kind of at a standstill. And my point being that if a universe in which, if we assume that logic is across the multiverse, A is either A or non-A, law of excluded middle, then a universe in which a reality is being simulated and a universe in which a reality is not being simulated are equally probable when it's an unobservable hypothesis.
So we live in a universe where reality is simulated. That's their point.
Pause. No. Well, wait a minute.
We don't have simulations in our universe?
They definitely do. Crazy? So what we know about
come on.
Where whom's reality?
Literally, there's tons of reality simulated on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's how we study quantum fluctuations.
Data. I mean, literally games. I mean, literally that. So that's why I'm a little bit I'm a little bit concerned, because when you have the head of physics at an Ivy League college and you say, "No, I have the truth," that's scary.
So what I'm saying is,
what do you mean by simulation?
Let's take on the argument I just made.
It's funny how that
works. Does the law of excluded middle still exist?
Sure. It has nothing. I don't even know what you're talking about. The point is that these people on stage, smarter than us.
No, I'm asking, do you know what the law of excluded middle is?
I don't know a lot of things, my friend.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but if you don't know a lot, maybe not try to condescend and quote every scientist you can think of when trying to put a point on something that I'm making a philosophical argument on.
You're crazy, man. I'm bringing up
I'm making a philosophical point. Does the law of excluded middle exist? Since you don't know, let Triboulet answer.
Okay. Yes.
So in a hypothetical situation, something is either A or it is non-A. Is that correct?
Yes.
So a universe that exists in pause.
I have no idea for the record.
That's why I'm asking him.
Because I'm
Please
ignorant.
don't interrupt me. So in a situation in which the law of excluded middle exists, the universe either it has a simulated reality or a universe that does not have a simulated reality. It cannot be both simultaneously, otherwise it would break the law of contradiction. It is either one or the other.
Yes.
So if multiverses exist, which is your hypothesis, you could live in a universe equally probably that has a simulated reality and does not.
It's not equally probable.
Why not? It has to be one or the other.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that's not. No, hold on.
It is a complete hypothetical situation.
Stop. No, I can explain this. So you can have you have either. So if we exclude the middle, right? A or non-A, right? That doesn't mean they're equally probable, right? If I play the lottery, I either win or I will not win. It doesn't mean that my chances of winning are 50%.
I agree. So
okay, so that's the point that I'm making. So exclude the middle and it can exist, but it doesn't mean there's a 50% chance that we live in a universe where there's a
50% chance. I'm saying
it's not equally probable.
Why is it not equally probable when you have only two things that can exist?
I don't see why it would be impossible. It breaks no law of logic, and there's no reason why it couldn't just spontaneously come.
I'm not saying it does. I'm saying it either is or it is not.
Yes, it is true. Either it is or it's not. That is true.
That's it. I'm not saying that it does. I'm saying that because it either is or it is not, your chances of living in one in which it is and your chances of living in one in which it is not are the same.
That's incorrect. That's incorrect.
That's the point that's wrong.
That's incorrect.
Yes.
Brian Greene would tell you we have more evidence.
Okay, Brian Greene. Let's quote him again.
No.
Are you going to start quoting him, or are you going to actually argue for once?
I'm telling you what he would say. I watched this conversation.
I'm not arguing with Brian Greene.
Let's throw Brian Greene.
Okay. I think there's a problem. So because you said
you can throw him out.
It's possible. You said it's possible that we live in a universe where simulation exists, and also possible we don't live in a simulation exists. Therefore, there's equal probabilities.
No.
I'm asking that. That sounds like what you just said, Facade. That's where me and Morefreeuss disagreed. That's what I'm saying. So the law of excluded middle does not guarantee 50% for either side. It could be 99 and 1%. That's what you're basing your argument on. It's not.
What I'm saying is you have an unobservable thing. Let's say Schrodinger's cat. You're familiar with it.
Yes.
Until you open the box and find out you were unaware of the actual.
The box is already open. That's the problem.
How is the box open?
Because we can perceive.
We're getting lost in the
simulated reality.
Let's get into this because now my whole point could be literally there's no way to prove anything that you're about to say, but say it anyway.
No.
We only have. We could essentially lead this to solipsism. That's my whole point.
Well, maybe I could be wrong.
I definitely could. No,
I'm not saying I'm right.
We can't rule out solipsism. So here's what this is what I'm saying.
If we can't rule out solipsism, then literally nothing can be known, and it is not possible to know reality.
No, that isn't.
All we have is what we know.
No, first of all, there's a bunch of leaps going on here.
Solipsism in a nutshell.
No, it's so. What do you mean by known? Like you talking about 100% certainty?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's not how I use the term no, right? Like I'm a fallibilist,
okay,
just like every other scientist ever. So
let's play this game of leaps of logic. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to go back to what you were saying earlier. You were saying there was equal probability that we live in a universe with a simulation as one that we don't.
Yeah, we disagree. I disagree.
Yeah, that is fundamentally wrong. That's a misappropriation of the or misapplication of the law of excluded middle.
I asked if you believe in the multiverse and an infinite number of universes.
That's a speculation too.
I don't believe in it.
That's a speculation.
I don't believe in an infinite number, but I believe in several.
We only know what we observe.
I get it's speculation because it's non-observable. My question was, is that something that you believe?
No,
I don't believe that it's infinite.
I think the scientists that have spoken on this subject are only going to commentate on the things that they can actually prove and observe. That's it.
Why would they commentate on saying things like a multiverse would exist? Because they can't prove or observe it.
Because you want me to explain the science? I'm happy to do so.
You just said one thing, and I'm asking why would they do something else?
If you look at the history of science,
said they would do something.
If you look at the history,
an example of when they're not doing that.
if you look at the history of science, there was one planet, then there was multiple planets, then there was multiple solar systems, and there was
Pause.
multiple
Was there
galaxies.
ever a
There was
point in time,
multiple
with exception of
everything.
literally the iteration
The
of the universe in
logical
which they didn't
progression,
exist?
the progression logically, according to science, is that there's always been multiple of everything. If you go
Okay,
back to the
pause,
origin of
pause,
science, you don't want to
pause.
hear the explanation?
I want you
I'll
to
give you the
understand
explanation if you want to
something.
hear it.
I want you to
I'll
understand
give you
something.
the explanation. You want to hear the explanation?
Can I get a thought out, or you just want to talk?
I want to explain to you why they came to the conclusion they did.
I'm telling you this. Did those planets ever not exist?
That has nothing to do with it. They observed it.
It does
think
exist
they
because
observed
literally the only thing that
progression.
changes is our observation and knowledge surrounding
No,
them.
no, no, no. I
They
think
observed the
He was,
progression of
hold on.
multiple.
Just everybody stop. No, no. Everybody stop. No. Hold.
Yeah,
There's this
okay.
miscommunication. There's this miscommunication going on. So
Yeah.
Morpheus, when you said like earlier like back in the day when we were first studying sciences, the first it was only one planet, then it was only one solar system. What you had meant to say was we only knew about one planet, then
Yeah,
only
right.
knew about that's what he was
Correct.
talking
What you're
about.
saying is
So
that knowledge is increasing over time.
Yes.
yes.
Okay, cool, great. But
And
So
that's not,
you were
also,
like,
that
why?
doesn't change
also,
How do we
reality.
know?
well, yeah, it isn't. Yeah, that's not what he was saying at all. He was just
Oh.
talking about a knowledge of it. Also, like on top of that, like there's a lot of the mathematical implications of quantum loop gravity shows that it's just a necessity, and the same with super string theory, and the same with M theory. Just about any sort of attempt that we've made to blend the standard model with general relativity implies a multiverse. So it's literally, if you look in every single theory, when they try to have a grand unified theory,
I agree
physics,
with you.
it always
I'm
well,
not-
I'm talking to I was talking to Facade about this. This is why I believe in a multiverse.
There has to be one. I mean, you're talking about like 11 to 12 different dimensions. I mean,
Okay. See, to me, it seems like we do two things in this conversation that are really funny. They're hilarious to me. One, we say, there's a theory that could imply this. And then we say, well, I believe it because of this theory. And I would say, okay, like a good theory is you have good reason to believe in it, right? And then I could say something like, well, essentially that could lead you to things like solipsism. Because essentially, if something could hypothetically exist, something could also not ever hypothetically exist. And just the same logic that you're using could be completely wrong. We could just be mathematically wrong across the board. It could be completely thrown out the window because we're just idiots.
Okay, well, I don't. Well, I wanted to go back to when you said that something could hypothetically not exist, right? So, like, reality could hypothetically exist, but could reality hypothetically not exist? No.
there's more evidence for one than the other.
But
That's what the mathematicians are going to say.
And also, I think this is a good example where I was talking about like your misapplication of law of excluded middle, right? So you have 100 and 0. Yeah, they still both apply. You have A and non-A, but just non-A is 0 possibility.
All we have evidence is one. That's kind of the problem.
But that's the point. It's like you want to play both sides of the field.
Well,
we have examples of one universe, and yet we have to appeal to a multiverse.
That's all they're doing
to get touched. Right?
No,
they would probably agree with you. Actually, seriously, Brian Greene, Dawkins, they'd probably agree with you because, like, they're not saying that there isn't a possibility of other. They're just saying that given the evidence, all we know is that this is possible. But they'd probably still agree with you that there's the possibility of 0. I mean, that has to still be a possibility, but we don't know. They're saying the probability, which is the main argument, I guess, or the statistical majority is one specific side, but you could still be right. I mean, I think that's the big thing. Is like all we can do is look at the world around us and come up with an idea. That doesn't mean we're right. And no one should ever say they're 100% right because that's stupid, right? I mean, we're all smarter than that.
My whole point, and this I get 100%. I swear to you, I get the whole. You think there's a flaw in my understanding of law excluded middle, but as the one that we have observed, in which we can generate some form of reality with technology. Okay, let's say hypothetically, 9 other universes exist. Okay, there's 10 total.
Mhm.
However, we're the only one we can observe and prove and do any calculations with or about, right? But what if in all 9 of the other ones, it is not possible to simulate reality in any way? My point being, if
Okay,
there's an
so
unobservable, unknowable factor, your
cool. So
chances of that being a universe in
I,
which it does
hold,
it can
for
be done and it cannot be done are identical.
like, so when you said like in the other universes, when he said it's not possible, like what do you mean by like not possible? Are you saying like it would violate the laws of physics, or would it violate the law of logic?
I mean, I don't care because I'm just
Well,
saying
it
it
makes
either is or it
it
is
makes a
not.
big difference on whether or not like I'm gonna follow your
No,
line of reasoning.
I'm just
Because
saying it either is or it is not, and I'm saying in this universe it does not. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
can see your
giving you a
point.
hypothetical.
okay,
I think your point is
Because,
should
like, I
be
mean,
considered.
admittedly, I could go to things like gods and deities, and I could
Yeah,
make
right,
up
right,
laws
right,
and
right.
physics that exist only in that
Exactly.
universe. But there's no
But
need for me to do that. I'm just saying the reality for that universe means that
I
it
don't
cannot be simulated.
I don't think that honestly, I don't think that, and I know you hate for me to bring up these people, but I'm just saying
I
I
don't
don't
hate for you to
necessarily think
bring
that.
them up. I just want you to argue from your perspective, not theirs.
Well,
That's all.
I think through their minds, but I don't I don't think they would necessarily disagree with you on this point. I think they would say the evidence just points towards something different, and you're right. I don't think they can tell you you're wrong, and I wouldn't tell you you're wrong. I think you're right, actually. Of course, there could be a universe where there's no possibility of simulation, but our universe only tells us one thing: there's possibility of simulation, and that's why they made the claim they made. But it would be a very interesting conversation to hear their thoughts on that counter argument, because that's a good counter argument.
I mean,
I'm gonna say it's not.
my whole point being is like obviously taking the multiverse as a reality, if you will. It's taking it as like multiverses definitely exist.
Mhm.
There's no way we can observe currently. Not saying they don't may not in the
Well,
future.
there is. So there is. They're working on experiments for the
Well,
multiverse.
like I said, they could in the future be able to do
You
some
probably
sort
will.
of test or
Well,
hypothesis for
no,
another universe.
there's a current test that's possible. Like, because
Okay,
it's
but
not like you said, like,
currently we
there's no
can't
way we could
prove that
observe.
anything exists except our own universe.
Well, I mean, so like right now, it is. We don't have any evidence that there's something
Okay,
outside.
so what I just said was an absolute true statement.
No, you said there was no way to prove it, and
I
There's
said
that is
there's
not
no
the case.
way to currently
there's lots
prove
of
it.
universes, that's for
You
sure.
said there's no way to currently know.
Yes, there's no way to currently know that the other universes exist.
No,
No.
there is a way to know.
Yeah,
So
there's
like
lots of
we
universes
just don't
out
have
there.
the evidence. I can
Well,
walk
well,
through the
it depends.
experiment.
Are you talking about a universe
So,
outside of our universe?
well, yes, I'm talking about for the universe. They're doing experiments now for quantum loop gravity. So like we're
Yeah.
talking about like there's some sort of meta gravitational field where gravitational bubbles are bursting out of those, right? And they're
Yeah.
expanding and contracting and all that kind of stuff, right? And so they live in sort of this, I guess, in this omniverse,
So
right?
can
And
we
these
define
bubbles,
knowledge real quick?
yeah. So okay,
You specifically, since you're making this argument.
There's
well,
like
I'm not making an argument. I was just explaining the experiment that they're
Okay, but
experiment.
typically, go ahead. You're explaining an experiment as proving a point to knowledge. You said we can know other universes exist. So
yes,
please
because
explain knowledge.
because they have an experiment. If they have an experiment,
Can you please define knowledge in the sense that you just used it?
Yeah, I could say. I mean, knowledge is just,
A justified true belief. Is that where you're going to go with it?
well, I think there's some problems with that. Like for me, I could say that I know something if the contrary would be like worldview altering.
Well, I mean, you could say you believe something if it's worldview altering.
No. It's like no. So like I believe. I mean, there's a lot of things I believe that I wouldn't say that I know. So like,
okay, can you give me an example of something that you know?
If there's a belief that I have, and I hold this, and I say that I hold this belief so dearly that it will be worldview altering, I call that knowledge.
Okay, can you give me one example of something that you know?
Yeah, I know that 1 + 1 is 2.
How do you know that?
Like, because like we can. I mean, I can walk you through the what was it? Was that philosopher who did that, like that 10-page proof about how 1 + 1 = 2? I mean, just
I mean, there have been physicists since
I mean,
as a joke have proved that 1 + 1 = 0. My whole point being that
well, I mean, assuming base 10. I mean, the knowledge thing really has nothing to do with the experiment.
It kind of does, because I said you could know other universes exist, and you said I was wrong. You said you could know other universes exist. How can you know? And how could I know another universe exists?
To the same extent that you could, to the same extent that you can know the Big Bang happened, you could know that other universes exist.
Okay,
it's a very similar experiment.
Let's break some things down. This is craziness. Okay,
yeah.
I don't
know where the knowledge is going. I mean, I just don't know where that has anything to do with the punishment.
But we're all adults here, okay? None of us should fall for the 1 + 1 = 2 or 0 argument. Okay, that's ridiculous. It's not. It's not a legitimate argument. It has to do with semantics and context and definition.
Yeah,
but we all know that it's a way to like freaking like, you know, target people who have never understood deconstructionism or whatever, and that it's not doing anything healthy for us. But in terms of like, how do you know knowledge? I mean, come on. Like,
I'm not asking how you know knowledge. I'm asking specifically how you know another universe exists.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. I was explaining the experiment. No, hold on.
That's my whole point. You could literally just evolve into solipsism there.
Yeah, so why are we dealing with this? We're all more intelligent than
because that. I'm curious how one would know another universe exists when there's no.
I was giving you the evidence for it. That's what I was watching.
And I was waiting for it to come until we got interrupted.
Okay.
No, but I was giving this, but you asked me about knowledge. So
yeah. So you say you know something like this universe exists. How do you know that?
I didn't say I know the universe exists. I was saying that it's possible to know about know that there's a multiverse, and that's all I was saying. And there's an experiment. We may have frozen. Did we freeze?
We froze for a second there, but
okay.
It's back.
Yeah, I was just explaining the experiment. So, but like first, I had to give some some background information about how quantum loop gravity works, because otherwise, if I describe the experiment, it's not going to make any sense to you. So anyway, so these in the meta gravitational field, you have these tiny gravitational singularities morphing into existence, right? Some expand and collapse, and some expand forever, and then that's it. And then some are just right? And so the ones who are just right, they're the ones that continue to exist. In those metas, pocket universes that are bouncing around, they're bouncing around in some sort of omniverse. And if one was to collide into another one, what you would expect to see is a bunch of radiation out in the cosmos, and it would be like in a circular fashion, kind of like the same way that you would expect if a bubble were to hit each other. And so that's what they're doing. So they're looking out into the CMBR, the cosmic microwave background radiation, looking to see if they can see some sort of imprint of that, and that would be evidence of it. That's one experiment that they're doing. That would be the first.
And they've discovered this evidence.
They have not.
So you still know that another universe exists, though?
No, I don't know another universe exists.
Well, you said you could know that another universe exists.
Yes, I could know that another universe exists, but I do not know that another universe exists.
Okay, so whether another universe exists or not is currently unknown.
Yes, it is currently unknown.
Okay, so my point stands.
Could know. No, well, you said I couldn't know, and yes, I could.
There's still potential for no.
Yeah, I mean,
it does know.
Okay,
there's still potential.
No,
There's a potential
that's
that
what
there's a little
10
green man living inside my head.
Yeah, but some
Oh,
potential is better than
okay,
others.
hold on.
The
Like,
scientific
I don't,
facts.
yeah, I don't know what. Okay, so this is the bag, right? Right. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So
I know what a
I
bag
actually,
is.
actually, I have not opened this bag. I got this bag for re-enlisting in the army for like another 3 years. So anyway, I haven't opened it. I have no idea what's inside it. Could I know what's inside? Could I know what's inside the bag?
Sure.
Yes, there's
Yes.
potential.
Yes,
for
but do I
knowing what's
do I
inside.
know what's inside? No, I
No.
don't.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. So
does
I could
does that grant you that another universe definitely exists?
No, and I'm not saying that I know that. What I'm saying is that there are the empirical evidence could exist, and we have experiments for
But
it.
we don't have any of it.
We don't have it.
But that's like
But
most
it
like
could
scientific
exist.
claims. I mean,
That's all
they
I'm saying.
they make us they make assertions, or you could say not assertions, proclamations, if you will. Yeah, abductions, whatever. They look at the universe, and this is why the original claim even came into existence. They said, well, look around us. There's all these simulations. Wouldn't it make sense that in the future we'd come up with a simulation? You're right. It could be 100% false. Everyone can agree with you on that, including myself, because I have no idea. But I mean, it's a decent assumption, right? I mean, it's better than nothing. It's better than like looking at, rain hitting a pond and say, well, we might just become rain in a pond. Like, I'm just saying, like, we have to at some point just kind of like find common ground to a certain degree.
You said,
What's up?
You said faith.
Well, no, it's not faith, because faith is absent of factual empirical evidence, whereas these claims that these scientists are making have some
second universe or a multiverse.
No,
multiverse
tons
is
and
based
tons.
off of
There's tons and tons of mathematical evidence.
yeah.
That leads
I mean,
to it. That's what I'm saying.
there's a lot of evidence.
Theories that point that it's possible that multiverse exists.
Yeah,
well,
but
no, not that it's possible that it would have to be like so. Like, dude, like every time they try to blend quantum physics with general relativity, you get a multiverse. Like every single theory, M theory has it, superstring theory, string theory, quantum loop gravity. They all have it.
Like just for the sake of playing devil's advocate, because it's all I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Is let's say hypothetically every one of these theories is wrong because the people that exist now are the smartest people that have ever existed, but they're still infinitely dumb compared to how we're going to be in 50 years.
But all we have, unless you're going to transgress to nihilism, all we have is
that's
the
my whole
evidence.
point, is that you could always, especially when
Sure.
you're talking about an entire reality existing in a simulation, why not just go to nihilism?
You could just throw it all away, and there's plenty of
I agree.
arguments towards
if everything is existing in a simulation, why not just be a nihilist?
Well, because I mean, we could do a whole episode on that, because I've studied that deeply and I've written papers on it. But I can tell you right now, nihilism is giving up. If you want to give up on life and the opportunities we have as sentient human beings, more power to you. But guess what? Let me tell you something. Happiness happens. It has to do with enduring life's challenges.
No, it doesn't.
Well,
that's just your opinion.
Well,
no, it's endorphins in the brain. I can prove that to you.
I was going to say whether or not it's whether or not this is a simulation or not, like suffering still is still a real thing, and I don't like to suffer. So that's
if you want to.
That's
no, it's funny. It's funny. You want to.
Well, either way, like my brain can't tell. So if whether or not I feel like you're like peeling my skin off, or whether you're actually doing it, like the suffering will still be there.
So your point that happiness is endorphins in the brain, I've been there, man. I can go down that tunnel with you. We can go down that path, and I'll prove to you that happiness.
That must demonstrate a shared reality.
It does. It does, because me and you thought of the same thing. Well, and I'm telling you right now, like,
shared reality.
It's deeper than that.
In
because
to have a shared experience, yeah.
Like, I mean, you.
I mean, he's right. You're right. I'm not sitting here going to argue with you on that one. Happiness is literally a chemical. I mean, we could shoot up heroin and I'll be happy, but reality is much. I would say existence is much deeper than that, and so you have to move past that truth, because that's just a fact that has nothing to do with reality.
You don't get to say it's just a fact and then that's it.
Like, it is. It's just a fact. If I shoot you in the face, you're gonna die.
I'm a blue
Smurf.
Fact. It's a fact that I'm a blue Smurf.
If I close off your air from your mouth, you're gonna die in your nose. That's a fact.
No,
should we base our whole existence
that you might think
on that?
But I could exist in a reality in which that doesn't happen.
No, you don't. If I smother you, you're gonna die every time. Because I know.
How do you know
Scientific.
That? You say I
every
can
person
things
who's
too.
been every Jew that was robbed of oxygen died. That's a fact.
That's an opinion based off of what you utilize.
Well, yeah, you stop.
Jews robbed of
oxygen. We gotta stop there. We gotta stop there. I know what Facade means, but the audience listening may not understand the philosophy.
Yeah, you're right. I don't want to be. Yes, you're right. We're getting deep.
Yeah, all right. So,
but no, you guys all have good opinions. I love it, man, because you guys are smart. Seriously.
I wanted to in a little time left. I wanted to shift it to another point, because we're talking a lot about simulations, but not necessarily about reality. Like to you, like what does existence? So what does it mean to exist? Like, for instance, I'll tell you what I mean when I look at it in a very I'm a huge physics nerd. If you couldn't tell already, but so. When I think of existence, to me, to exist means to occupy space at a time, right? So, a lot of times you hear.
I really just want to keep playing devil's advocate here. How do you know you exist? Because I could say I define reality as a stream of consciousness.
I mean, we could just go to the cogito, but it's a little bit off the topic that I was trying to ask.
My bad. I thought you were going down the direction of how you can prove you exist.
No. I'm not. Not how you can prove existence, but I'm just talking about just ontology. Like, what does it mean to exist? So there's a lot of times Christians, they'll say stuff like God is transcendent, like God exists out of space and time, and to me that's not a coherent statement. To say something exists outside of time, to say that it exists for zero time, that is the same thing as saying that it does not exist at all. But to say that it exists outside of space is to say that it does not, it exists nowhere.
If you'll allow me 30 seconds.
Sure.
Let me answer everyone's question. No one knows, first of all. Just like if you're an atheist, you're ignorant. We don't know what created us. We don't know why we're here. No one knows that. That's not an answer that anyone knows. And also, it's not a scientific proposition to claim such assertions. We don't know. It's a mystery. And to say that you know is a fallacy. Point blank. So, anyway, I guess I would just say
somebody might know.
No one knows. Right?
You don't know that.
We don't know.
That's my job. Stop. I'm doing it the whole episode. Human. It's my job. You put it down.
Okay.
We're all human. We don't know why we're here. Yeah. Honestly.
So Morefreeuss, let me ask you this, because I think Triboulet was trying to go there. How do you define reality? Or how? I'll go with that exact question.
I guess the best way I would describe it is it's what I have. It doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean it's false. At any point in time, trust me, I've had some freaking existential crises. I don't know who I am, to be honest with you. But at the same time, this is what is. So that's why I like Deleuze. If you ever study Deleuze, Deleuze believed that philosophy should be a study of contradictions, not of truth. And I love that, because I'm a contradiction. I love truth, but I'm a contradiction. I'm a walking, logically inconsistent person. So I don't know, and that's the truth. I really don't. Anyone who tells me they know, I'm very skeptical of, because I'm like, you don't know. None of us do. All we know is that we exist and we don't exist. That's all we know. whatever we think existence is, which we have some common. We can. There's common ground there, right? I mean, we can share thoughts, we can share experiences, all those things. But that in itself is existence. And then there's the idea of a non-existence, which is the state of being before you were born and the state of being that our ancestors hold. But that's all we know, and we don't really know why we're here. There's no, and from a nihilistic perspective, Nietzsche was right. I mean, Nietzsche was the king of nihilism. He kind of introduced that to the philosophical world. But at the same time,
I think Nietzsche was wrong on his nihilism.
well, I don't like Nietzsche in the sense that, first of all, I love Nietzsche and I don't like him. Another contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I I like Nietzsche in the sense that humans need to be punched in the stomach and have a reality check, because we're not great, we're not amazing, we have a lot of flaws, and we have to understand that. In the same sense, I
So
can completely
I
understand
thought you were
Nietzsche's
referring
nihilism.
to when Nietzsche said, like, when he was talking about pretty much when he said, like, I guess the logical conclusion of atheism is nihilism.
So well,
Because
so
he was so wrong on that.
so here's Nietzsche's contribution.
Okay.
I mean, I I've, I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong, but this is my study of him. Nietzsche's biggest concern was with the hubris of man. He wrote the Antichrist. He wrote um, lies in a non-moral sense, and he wasn't a kind of geometrical philosopher in the same way Spinoza was. He was more of a literature philosopher. So he wrote his kind of issues in prose to a certain degree, but um, his issue was that human beings can only perceive the world, and this is by his text, through the anthropomorphic lens. Therefore, we can never discern truth, and nihilism is a byproduct of that, which he didn't say was good. He said it was a problem. He said that the death of God by modernity would produce two things: one, a new religion, and two, nihilism, which
Yeah,
is what
so
we see in
that's
modern day.
cool. That's why I thought you were going with that, and that's where
Exactly.
I totally disagree. And, like, it's
Really?
unfortunate. Yeah, I totally disagree, completely,
Okay.
100%.
I'm just gonna
He is.
end on this, and then if we want to give the
I,
guest the end of the show, I was just gonna
yeah.
say I am undoubtedly a Plato existentialist, and that would be that.
Well, I think it's unfortunate that it was like it's toward the end of the show that we got here, but I would like to have you back on to talk about that actually.
Yeah, 100%. Because that's
Yeah.
a really that's a lot of people misunderstand. And my professor, by the way, I'm not trying to like drop names or anything, but
No, no, go ahead.
this dude was an Israeli ex-intelligence officer. He got his PhD from Yale. Okay, he hammered me day in day out. If he watches this, hopefully that would be great. But he hammered me day in and day out because I didn't understand Nietzsche correctly, and I didn't understand the idea of like faith and religion in the way that he did. And I'm so thankful that I understand it now. But anyway, the point is that there's a lot more to discuss on that. But I can't thank both of you more because I really do enjoy these conversations. I know it seems like we're at each other's throats sometimes, but
That's the whole point of the show.
that's the whole point of the show. And
I literally
honestly, like,
invented it for that purpose.
I love it. It's
I
amazing.
invented it because Triboulet and I literally just argue day in and day out, and we
And
thought it'd be
you're a,
hilarious to record it.
yeah, you're a genius in that part because like honestly, that's what we need right now. There's so many people that are afraid to just talk. Like, come on. This is just a conversation. And you all make really great points like always, and I can't appreciate you guys having me on more, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Triboulet, anything to add before last word of the show, or did you want that to be the last word of the show?
Um. Well, as far as updates, we did MJ stop. Dude, my bad. My
Uh oh.
kid is right
Updates.
here.
Obviously, Morpheus, thank you for coming on today because our last minute cancellation. So just like last week, we had cancellation. Had an amazing guest come in and save the day. That happened again this week. Next week, I think we are going to be without an episode, and then the week after that, I think Joseph Jackson's going to be on Wednesday. Did I miss anything?
Oh yeah, so yeah, Joseph. That's what I was going to say. We're gonna have Joseph Jackson coming on Wednesday. We're going to be talking about the um
Transitioning.
transitioning for minors. So yeah, that's gonna be the topic. And also too, we're gonna bring in we're gonna have the some of the hosts from what's it called the King's Lair. We're gonna discuss cultural appropriation. They said some stuff about cultural appropriation that I think is just total nonsense. And we're gonna bring them on the show, and I'm gonna tell them why they're wrong about cultural appropriation, and they're gonna tell me why uh, they're right. So it's gonna be a fun time.
Morefreeuss, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you filling out last minute cancellation for us.
Yeah, bro. Thanks, you, man.
If you have anything you want to promote or plug, and you got the last minute, and then we'll be out of here.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think on Twitter I'm like Morpheus01 if you search. But other than that, nothing else to promote. Have a good evening. So.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks, not next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe.